We're pleased to welcome the morning after this Rough Riders 44-41 loss in Ottawa, Canadian Football Hall of Famer, Riders Plaza of Honor inductee, the great Gino Makowsky, member of the Sask Party. Welcome to the program, Gino.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You seem just completely mesmerized by what's going on around you. This is your debut in the big show. What do you think?
It's pretty nice. We got the green screen here. This looks first class. Wow,
it is. Yeah, well, I thank Paul and his crew at IKS. I got to do that. And Darren Dupont for all the work that he put in. And I just love the fact that you're the latest Hall of Famer to roll through here. Wes Cates was in that chair a couple days ago. Hoppy, Chris Getzlaff on his way to the plaza. So thanks for the support, Gene. And Lynch was all over you about the football game. I think I'm just going to go fill up my coffee and let you two talk about the game last night. What'd you think, Gene?
Well, it was a good game. Of course, we'd like the Riders to have won that. You know what? Ottawa made a lot of plays, but we did too. I like how we got the ball downfield. Fajardo, he did a good job. He wasn't shy. Case in point, right before the first half, he just went after it. He said, let's get the ball down the field. Let's take some shots at it. And guys were making plays. And so it's a great CFL football game. One of those where it's high scoring and the offenses seem to be humming. And of course, it's a loss, but I'm a little more confident.
It was real tough for Corey going in there. I mean, that's about the first game he'd been for 60 minutes in about 6 years. So the pressure was on, to say the least. And I thought he played tremendous.
Yeah, he did. It was a good mix of run and pass, and we moved the ball, and we didn't hang our heads or slump our shoulders. Offensively, just kept going and making plays, and so it was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch, for sure. But just put your player hat on for a second. You're walking out of that stadium as a Rough Rider, let's just say a lineman. How do you feel after a game like that?
Well, there's no moral victories in pro sports, right? You worry about the wins and losses, of course. You realize there's something to build on. You worry about how you individually played. Did you help the team win, or were you a negative to the effort? So those are some of the things you think about. But after the game, you're 0-2. You realize that, and so the pressure just keeps mounting, and you gotta come back, and you gotta bounce back. And this week against Toronto at home here, we gotta do something. I think stay in the hunt.
That's a big game against Toronto. And the following Saturday, Calgary's here, so next week's pretty big for this football team.
Absolutely, yeah. No, the West is going to be tough, as it always is. It seems to be every year, year after year. You can't fall behind, or you're scrambling. So this game in particular, as you mentioned, is something I think we have to pull a win on.
Our prompter telling us breaking news in the CFL this morning. Brandon Bridge has signed with the Montreal Alouettes, and CFL.ca is reporting that it is a one-year deal. So Air Canada is touching down in Montreal with the Alouettes, and a good time for them as they have a bye here in week 2. Gino, you've been very deft politically here in answering questions about this football team this from last night. Look at you, say, what are you talking about? But look, let's examine it big picture. The plan was to have Zach Collaros as the quarterback, and he got hurt 3 plays into week 1, and all of a sudden it's crisis mode, and Fajardo all of a sudden bails him out. Now, one of the things I thought about last night when I laid down to bed to think about this game was that, again, Jeremy O'Day knows what he's doing. You think they signed Cody Fajardo by accident? Of course they didn't. They would have put all the work and the homework in and knew exactly what they were getting, right? Your thoughts on, and I want to tell people, Jeremy's 6 months into the job, as is head coach Craig Dickinson. There's a lot of things that need to come together here. Your take on your buddy Jeremy and the job that he's taken over and the job that he's done in those 6 months.
Well, he's done a great job. I mean, he's been building on this since he retired in 2010, I believe. And he's just a solid guy. He knows football. He's a smart person and very competitive. And, as you mentioned, you can do all the analysis, the stats, all that, but players got to go out and play. It's not up to the GM to perform once you think you know what you got. You have to, keep that level that you think they have, but you got to raise it, because teams are going to start game planning against you. They're going to start watching film and see what this person can do and can't do. And so you got to continue to keep improving, especially if you're a younger guy. You got to learn quickly, and there's no time to adjust and wait for things. You got to perform relatively soon. So they saw something in him, I think. And but back to the original question, GMs can do so much. They sign and they scout and they do what the coaches type of player they want them to find. But again, it's always about the players and what they do on the field.
And that's my point is, I will always be a Jeremy O'Day fan, personally and professionally. But if you really want to look at that game last night, 41 points. Who expected that?
Nobody.
Right.
Absolutely nobody.
So who would have thought it was the defense that, I won't say let them down, but allowed 44 points on the board? Now, there was 2 turnovers. One of them was on special teams. But I'm sitting here going, maybe this team really can compete in the CFL West after what I saw last night, Gino. I guess is my point. There's more pieces there maybe than we thought.
Yeah, for sure. They're going to be in the mix. I like their coaching staff, and I think that coaching staff can get a lot out of that team. But you know what? Ottawa made some plays, though. I mean, you can fault the defense, but a perfectly thrown ball is and a great catch by a receiver. The defense, you just can't do a lot about that, and that happened several times. I mean,
Ottawa surprised you?
Yeah, they have. I thought, again, they had questions at quarterback, just like we did coming into the season, and they performed. And so, like I said, but back to that one game, they were making plays, and that's what you got to do in the CFL. And came up just a little short, but I think. I'm optimistic, as I said before.
You're always optimistic.
Well, I try and be.
It's great. It's a great way to live. Yeah, you can be optimistic, you can be pessimistic. Either way, eventually you're going to be right. One thing we love about this show, too, is if you're writing in on Facebook, tell us where you're from. Joseph Lazito writing us from New York today. Hope to meet the legend, Mr. Makowsky, if I'm ever back in Regina. I'm sure that we can make that happen, Joe. Just let us know where you're watching from. We've had a North Battleford this morning. The people from Norway have checked in already, Lynch, and they've had their supper, and they said it was great.
That's right.
Yes. Gino, just to stray a little bit on politics, and actually here's a question from Clark. How is politics different from sports? Do you see similarities? Do you see differences? What do you see?
I think there's certainly similarities. There's the team aspect of it. You're together working towards a goal to try and get better results, and you do that on the football field, and you do that in the political arena, and you're there to serve, and again try to do your best, as I mentioned. I'd say they're both pretty difficult positions to be in, as you're aware, being a Rough Rider in Saskatchewan. You're sort of always have the lights on you, and people are very aware of how you're doing on the field and that sort of thing. And so criticism is there, and rightfully so, when things don't go well. And in the political arena, too, there's tough decisions that have to be made, and it's not always the most popular, but sometimes those are things that have to be done. And so, those are some of the your job's on the line. I guess in football it's every game, but politically you get
every 4 years.
Every 4 years, and so
that would be nice.
You're on the line. So, but they have their challenges, but I signed up for them, so it must not be.
You remember that SAS party, steak and lobster supper we were at? It was at the Turvey Center. You were very new into this. I think you'd already won your seat, but I said to you, Gene, or maybe you just announced your candidacy, and I said, do you really want to be part of this? And you said, it's a little late now. You remember that? That was good.
How do you see the CFL right now overall? I'm concerned about a lot of things, like BC, with all the hoo-ha they put up this year. They only had 18,445 fans at their opening game. Toronto's having a terrible time on attendance. So is Montreal. I'm don't know what to say, but it scares me. We got the beautiful stadium there. I hope we can have a competition come there in the years to come. I get scared when I see what's happening.
Yeah, I guess you're concerned about that. I guess that's up to the league level. I don't have answers for that, but that's sort of always sort of been percolating in the CFL, those major centers, and being able to attract fans there. There's just so many things going on. We hear that all the time. So it kind of ebbs and flows based on how the team's doing, or the ownership, or the work they're doing. But there is some success stories out there. Certainly, we watched the game last night. Ottawa's doing a great job, and it's interesting on the East Coast. That's something that's exciting and interesting concept of that, having international players on rosters too, to help gain some of that interest. You also worry about the things we've been talking about the last week too, is player safety and concussions and those sorts of things. Those are out there, and you worry about the brand that has for the game in general, not only at the pro level but down through the minor level. So those are challenges that you have to work through. I think we've got good people in the league, and hopefully those things will turn around. Again, John, I don't have answers on how to do that. But,
it's not your job,
no,
but you are alumni and you're a fan.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Canadian Football Hall of Famer Gene Makowsky with us. He is the Saskatchewan Roughriders career games played leader, which I think is probably the most impressive thing to me of all the guys that have come through those doors for 109 years. We've got questions here through Facebook. Kim writes in and says, I noticed that the Hoggies gave Cody time to complete passes throughout the game. Have we got the horses on the line to have a formidable wall in front of our quarterback, whomever it is? There's one for you. That's one you can answer.
I think I can. I hope I can. Well, we got a couple key injuries right on the line there. The veteran Labatt has been out for since the beginning of the season, so that's obviously a concern. And the kid Bladdock went down last game, so you start to worry about that. If it goes any further, the drop off in the younger guys that will be required to play. But I like what I've seen from left tackle. He's done a pretty good job in there that I've watched, and so you want those two import players to be major factors when you're playing them on the O-line. So yeah, I think they can do a good job as they gel and they come together, and I think you got a good running back to block for, and that's important, keeping that mix of run and pass going to keep those pesky defensive linemen at bay. And I think having a quarterback that can move a little bit and knows what he's doing and throws on time when the routes are supposed to be available in those windows definitely helps the O-line. So people often look at rushing stats or sacks given up and that kind of thing, and that's a bit of an indicator, but it really is a offensive concept and how things are timed out and everyone working together. So I think we got a good group, and we got some youth there, but we'll keep grinding away.
You look ahead the next 5 weeks. We got 5 games, or 6 weeks, I should say. With 5 games, 4 of them at home. So this is it, I think, a real chance to get ahead, a quick start in the Western Conference, because I look at the end of the schedule, I see something I've never seen before, Gino. I don't know if you have or not. Edmonton comes to Regina in the last game of the year, but prior to that, we're on the road for 3 consecutive games. 3 consecutive games. I've never seen that before in the CFL. I have in the NFL, but not in the CFL.
Yeah, I think maybe that has to do with scheduling of different things taking place at the new stadium.
NHL outdoor game, yes.
That's a big factor there. So, that's one of those things you just have to realize it's coming and just keep going at it, keep grinding away, and
Isn't that a long time on the road, though?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's probably not ideal, but one of those things you have to work around. I remember Toronto has a much over the last many years when they're in the Sky Dome, they had some ridiculous scheduling. Very short time between games on Tuesday, what have you, and then not being back for a month or so. So, and that's maybe one of those things that caused them to move to the new stadium to help with that attendance situation that they've had for many years. But just one of those things you got to overcome if you're a pro athlete and go from there.
You know what I think, Lynch? Those road games and a set like that is an excuse bad teams use. And good teams don't even think about it. That's what I think. And we'll see where the Riders are by October, but I don't think anybody's talking about that. They're talking about last night still, and then getting ready for the Toronto Argonauts. I got a couple questions more for Gene Makowsky, Canadian Football Hall of Famer. Everybody's wanting your thoughts via the Facebook feed here on Dakota Shepley, the Riders' first-round pick 2 years ago. Started at right guard last night. Your take on, and of course he came from the Jets, New York Jets, your take on him. so far, from what you've seen?
Yeah, just I've only seen him a couple games. Haven't focused on him intently, but the times I have watched him, he's done a pretty good job. I mean, he's a young guy, knew the league, doesn't know any of the defensive linemen, but he's fitting in there okay, and sure to get better as he gets to know the league and the nuances of playing that position. And looks like he's versatile. He can play both sides, which is not. Many people out there may not realize it. It is a thing. It's different. It's like batting right-handed or left-handed. Maybe not quite that much of a fine motor skill, but it is a difference. So having guys like that can step in is good news. And again, hopefully, I'm not sure the lists of the folks behind. But you worry about the ratio if you have to play an American if anybody else gets injured. So
yeah, and a big one for me that I really want your take on is what's become a war between the commissioner and the Players Association. And in your time, 17 years, right? Were you ever a player rep? Did you ever serve on the? I don't recall that you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. But I'm sure you have opinions. So
I paid my dues, though.
You paid your way out. You have to. So Zach gets hurt and knocked out, and who knows when he's going to come back. You're following the whole situation. Simone Lawrence gets a 2-game suspension. The Players Association appeals it, and then the commissioner comes out on Wednesday and says how deeply disappointed he is in the Players Association for launching an appeal. It's costly, it's time-consuming, and we should all be on the same page as player safety. That was Wednesday night. Thursday morning, the Players Association comes out, Brian Ramsey, and just blasts the commissioner, basically saying the things you say and the things you do are two different things. Wasn't good. And that was all instigated, in my opinion, by Randy's comments Wednesday night. I feel just let the appeal process play out. And then, if you read the Leader Post, Murray McCormick's article, which posted online today, the commissioners come out and said he woke up Thursday morning and realized, I don't want to fight with the players. I want to all get along and go to the same goal. Well, it's kind of late. I don't like how this has played out. What's your take as a alum that you are?
Yeah, well, certainly, first of all, it's an unfortunate situation when we lose our quarterback 3 plays into the season, as you mentioned before, on a play that I thought, never played linebacker before, of course, that he definitely could have led up and knowing the quarterback and sliding feet first, that's exactly what it is. So a little disappointed in that, but the process has always kind of been there where the PA represents both the offender and the victim. And so that is a difficult situation when you have, that scenario. And I think people are asking rightfully, well, what about you standing up for Collaros? He plays as union dues. He's a member, and he is certainly taken in the last few years some questionable shots, and that's certainly disappointing. I know the PA, their focus, I don't know for sure, but I think in the last collective bargaining agreement, player safety was big on their list, and so their stance makes you wonder about that player safety, knowing that maybe in this case 2 games and they saw the hit and their emphasis on player safety, maybe that's something where they would have said, maybe within their rules and their constitution, I don't know, they're required no matter what. They don't have any not conscience or decision making on what they represent or who they represent. They don't have any authority to make that decision. If a player comes forward, you have to represent them whether you like it or not. Maybe that's the case, and I can understand that a little bit. But in this case, and their emphasis on player safety, I might have said, look, Simone, that seems reasonable, that seems fair, let's go with that, and then move on.
They probably should have done that. Now, on the player safety topic, Wally and I talked about this at length a couple of weeks ago, and he says the football, not just the CFL, has a PR crisis right now because people think it's too dangerous of a sport. This is from Wally Buono. When in reality, it's probably safer now than it's ever been. Now, you have 3 boys. They all play football, don't they?
Well, one of them doesn't play tackle. 2 of them play tackle. All 3 played flag.
So you are what you can get concussions in flag football. Let's be honest. You can get concussion walking out of this room on your way out. What is your take on the state of the game of football as a guy who would be considered a stakeholder, I think? And Doesn't hurt that you're pro football alum too.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with Wally on the branding piece that, there's that perception out there that, it's a dangerous sport and there are high profile situations where, somebody gets injured or whatever it has, the results after football. I certainly think that the benefits to myself and my kids vastly outweighs any possible potential injury out there. And I think sometimes, I don't want to go too far, but I think some of those are highlighted too much and overstated. I'm not demeaning or trying to devalue somebody that has legitimately got hurt. I don't mean to do that at all. But I think you mentioned it earlier, Rod. I've seen the concussion tests, and some of the highest ones are bike riding, skateboarding, women's soccer, women's lacrosse. And so there's never been, I think of Regina Minor football, there's never been more emphasis on player safety in terms of the rules and how to tackle properly. The equipment is. You got a helmet on your desk. That reminds me how much technology has grown over time, and I think of the CFL of how they are protecting player safety. They, you're getting old when you're saying, "Oh, those guys don't hit anymore in practice. They don't do any of that stuff." And I'm there. So, but from when I started playing to now, with the rules in place in terms of padded practices, the number of practices in training camp. And just overall the penalties for player safety, which we talked about earlier, it's never been a safer time to play football. And boy, again, I think the benefits to sport, particularly football, far outweigh the potential injuries.
Frenzy,
in my opinion.
I agree. It's well said. Very well said. Frenzy, you got 4 minutes with Gene Makowsky. What do you got for this Hall of Famer? From one Hall of Famer to another.
Well, it's to me, it's very important we have a good football team this year, Gino. I mean, we got that beautiful stadium. I'm sure you love that stadium. I think we have a pretty good football team. That confirmed in my mind last night watching that game that we have a good football team, and I think we can be a contender for first or second place. I think it's really going to be a great race in the West this year.
Oh, absolutely. It certainly is. You look at the quarterbacking and the other 4 teams in the West, and they're playing well. They're playing solid, and obviously that's a big indicator. Lots of movement among players, of course, but certainly the West didn't decrease in their quarterback play, in my opinion, and only got stronger in a few cases. So that's what we're contending with. The West has been a dogfight since I can remember, with all teams in the mix, and I expect that again. But I think the Riders can surprise some people. They have to play well, and of course, losing your starting quarterback early in the season is not an ideal scenario. But if you keep grinding, keep improving with those young guys, and shore things up on special teams and defense a little bit. Not that I think it's a long going occurring thing over a long period of time. I think we got good players there and good coaches. Just sometimes games happen that way, but in a long season over time, I think we'll be all right in those scenarios, and hopefully the offense can continue what we showed.
Lynch, you're out of time, Lynch.
Oh, that was too long of a question answer. I'm long-winded politician.
No, it's fine. You're a long-winded politician. Actually, as I say goodbye, Gene, I want to thank you personally. Theo Fleury and I both working as mental health and addictions advocates, and your government, the Honorable Jim Ryder, and the Premier Scott Moe, putting up $30 million in your last budget to mental health and addictions. So thank you on behalf of those communities. I thank them, but I'll thank you now.
Well, yeah, no, we appreciate it. It's an important thing, and it continues to emerge, and it's certainly on the radar for the government, and it affects a lot of folks, and so hopefully that money's put to good use.
Absolutely, Gene, you have an open spot on this show anytime. Thanks for coming in.
You're watching Rod Pedersen on demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.